Okay. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you. We've got one participant who isn't on camera right now, but we'll go ahead and get started, and we hope a couple of people might join later, like Suzette. So tonight, this is God Talk, and it's October 3rd, 2024, and we're talking basically about heroes. So we'll just go right into our opening question, our introductions. And I'm going to kind of repeat a question that Marco brought up one time a while ago. Kreger, you might have been here for this discussion, but I don't remember your answer. So the question is, who's your favorite superhero? So, my name is Carol, and I'm coming at you from Taos, and I have she, her pronouns, and we just rewatched Wonder Woman. So I'm gonna say Wonder Woman because I really like the way that she strove for peace and just really kind of fought for good and ended up that whole origin story by talking about the love of like how love is the most important thing. And so I really love that. How about you? Say your name first.
I gave my Michael. They could give by I am Michael. I go give by.
What are your pronouns?
AM.
AM.
I got feedback and feedback and yo.
Feedback is a superhero. He was the guy that there was a show that Stan Lee put on, one of the first reality shows I think we ever watched, that was called Who Wants to Be the Next Great Superhero? And season 1 was won by a guy named Feedback. And the prize was getting your name and your image of this character that you created into a comic book. So that's who Marco means when he says feedback.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's go in the order that y'all came online. So Leo and Jared.
No, you can go first. I'm still thinking.
You're still thinking? Okay. Okay. My name is Leo. My pronouns are he, him. My favorite superhero is Superman. And the reason is because he's able to fly. And it's just because of that. Yeah, I don't care about his other superpowers. It's just because he can fly. I don't know about y'all, but I usually have really awesome dreams where I dream that I can fly. And those are like the coolest dreams.
I never have done that. I've never flown in a dream before.
Are you serious? Never?
Only
Send
done
me your
it like
dream.
once.
Send me your dreams.
Yeah, I have those frequently. I even tell my husband, I was like, today I dreamt. So just real quick, one of the dreams that I had was that I had missed my, because I used to catch the bus a lot when I was younger. And so I had a dream that I had missed my bus. And then I'm like, well, how am I going to get to work? And here comes like a little eggshell, like a little egg, like half an eggshell, right? Floating in the air. And I'm like, I'm going to jump on that. So of course I jump, just hovering, following the bus. So yeah, or usually I'm flying. Yeah, it's.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's great. That would be so wonderful to be able to fly.
You have a cape when you fly?
No.
Oh. He said no capes.
Yes. Okay, so very dangerous. Hi, let's see. My name's Jared. My dreams aren't as exciting. They just call me out because I'm a counselor. You know how. But yeah, my pronouns are all of the above, any, all, etc. Right? And my favorite superhero would be Poison Ivy, because eco-terrorism is the way to go. Right? know, sometimes you need a little bit of force to get things done. I don't remember a single right that I can now enjoy that wasn't won via some form of aggressive behavior. And you know what? Poison Ivy, absolutely, I'm for her. What bad thing has she done that humanity hasn't deserved? Come on. She beats up the oil masons. She beats up all these terrible people, right? And you know, Batman saves them. So who's the bad guy?
I'm gonna have to look into Poison Ivy. I don't know much about Poison Ivy. All right.
Yeah, I think that's it's one of those, like, she's now, I think, in the comics more of like an anti-hero,
Yeah,
almost sort of figure. Yeah.
there's a straight up hero. Like, let's not beat around the bush. Some people gotta get some sense knocked into them before they figure out that you can't mess with this environment and without killing everybody.
Bad Girl Planeteer.
Yeah.
My name is Craig. My pronouns generally he, him, but I don't mind being addressed by any pronoun. And my favorite superhero, ooh, it changes with the winds. I am a big comic book person. I read comic books when I was a kid, incessantly. Like my grandmother, and my family would watch soap operas or novelas, and that would be their stories, and the superhero comics were my stories. Um, my favorite, I think, when I was growing up, um, was probably the Phoenix, because
Oh.
I don't know what gay doesn't love just like the power dynamic of the Phoenix. Um, and Now I think my favorite is Jubilee,
Oh.
because she's just so cute and so sweet, and yeah, like I love sparkles. So what's wrong with that? The little fireworks. Maybe she's a firework.
Cool. All right, Kreger.
All right, I'm Kreger, he, they, and I have to go into way back into the late 1960s because I don't do superheroes anymore. I don't even like watching movies. They're just too long, and my attention span is 30 minutes, which is surprising. I can stay on this thing for an hour. But back in the day, in the late 1960s, when I was 6 to 8 years old, there was a show called Batman and Robin. And my favorite superhero, I would remember. Now I understand why, but back then I just thought Robin was just so cute, and just Batman's, Batman's little boy toy. And so I have to go with Robin.
Robin was so fierce.
Well, let's talk a little bit about heroes, and what would you say would constitute like a modern day hero, and maybe y'all brought up the anti-hero thing too, so let's talk about that as well. What's a hero? What's an anti-hero? And
Greta Thunberg.
Immediately the first thought in my mind. Yeah.
with when you mentioned eco-terrorism or eco-justice on the other flip side of that, yeah, that's who came to mind. That was one of
She used to be super popular, but then she started opposing rich people in positions of power, and now no one covers her anymore, and she's like getting arrested all the time. That's my hero.
She's getting arrested? I didn't know that.
Yeah, like there's so much footage of her getting locked up because people only like it when you protest the socially acceptable things, right? Like
So what so she's just protesting in the
just like Poison Ivy, the environment, crime, just like capitalism, the like actual war that is occurring to this day. These things, right, where people are actually dying, where homeless people are getting displaced, right? She protests them, and she gets in trouble for it. And you know what? That's a hero. Because what did Christ do? You gotta
That's an ultimate example is Christ. Revolutionary. I think when we're talking about heroes, modern day heroes anyway, I don't know if it applies to superheroes, but we're talking about revolution, right? And Greta Thunberg kind of makes the point that Jared brought up last time about age, and Greta is such a young revolutionary. She's one of the youngest that came to international attention, certainly in that area. But a lot of people tend to, youth tends to, I don't know, maybe when you think about a lot of the revolutionaries, they were pretty young when they got started, at least. And of course, some of them continued throughout their lifetime. But let's think about maybe some of the LGBTQ plus heroes. Harvey Milk, the Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson. They were. Do y'all know those names? They were.
Right.
Yeah.
Still kind of rings a bell.
I saw the Harvey Milk movie.
Well, Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson were at Stonewall and did lots of things afterwards. They started a group called STAR. I don't remember exactly what that stands for, but the T stands for, I think, transvestite, I think is the term that was used back then. But they were, I believe that they were founding members of MCC New York. And so kind of pouring the faith issue into it. And of course, we can't speak on this group without talking about Troy Perry being one of the LGBTQ plus heroes. And how old was he when he started? In his 20s or 30s?
I think late 20s, early 30s.
I think Sylvia and Marsha both died at around age 50, and they so that was Marsha in the 90s and Sylvia in 2002. So they were pretty young still when they died, and that was a long time after Stonewall.
Wikipedia tells me he was 28 when when he founded MCC.
Okay. Well, there was a lot going on in the 60s. And so that was kind of, I mean, hippies were kind of considered the like the epitome of revolution and change, challenging the status quo. So I was pretty young in the 60s. I was born in the 60s. And but Lynn was talking last week. I was hoping she would be here. All the things that she did in terms of marches and protests and everything. But I think just look at all of you on here today. I mean, just being here and talking about our issues. Look at this out and proud t-shirt.
I'm like, what shirt am I gonna wear today? And I saw first thing that was on top of my t-shirts, and I'm like, okay, this is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, these are revolutionary acts to just be here and be ourselves and speak out. What do you think of as revolutionary?
I think anything that pushes back against status quo, anything that is anti-authoritarian, I think that which tries to resurrect and make real the promises of Christ's teachings are revolutionary. Um, Reaching out and supporting the least, whatever that means, in whatever society, in whatever time you're in, at whatever era, whatever, you know, continent, that is revolutionary. And so whatever you do in service of that, to me, that's revolution, whether that's small or large.
That's beautifully said. It's beautifully said. That's hard to add anything to that.
I remember the group from the mid and late 80s, really at the beginning of the AIDS crisis, the group called ACT UP.
Yes.
And these people were like in the street. These men and women were in the street trying to get medical attention, for people that had AIDS. And um, that to me was quite brazen. I was still so far in the closet at that point that, you know, I just, but I was aware. I was aware of these people out there doing what they were trying to do. And then what was it? I don't know. Somehow, I think Nancy Reagan kind of came around just a little bit and said, wait a minute. She started to get a soft spot for the boys dying of AIDS, and things kind of started to turn a little bit. But yeah, that to me was really something. As a closeted person, just watching on the news and stuff, how the ACT UP group just really got out there. To me, I hadn't seen anything like that since I remembered the Vietnam demonstrations on TV when I was, 6, 7 years old. And then ACT UP came along. I was like, Mom, it's like this is like Vietnam all over again. Like these people are really, these people are serious.
Yes. Yeah.
Another, I guess, modern day hero, or I guess revolutionary, that comes to mind is I guess now is the ex-president of Mexico, uh, AMLO. Um, he basically did away with all the guarantees that people were taking advantage of, such as like ex-presidents getting X amount of dollars for their pensions, and just all the corruption that was happening in Mexico, and the poor had been left forgotten without a pension plan or anything like that. But he decided to get rid of all of that, and like in his words, he said that he was putting the poor first, and he did a lot of good changes to where now a lot of the elderly have a pension every month. They have free medical health care. Just a lot of good things that he put in place. So that's what comes to mind as the modern day hero, if you will.
That's
Awesome.
good. There were 3 co-founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I looked up their ages, and right now they're like 39 to 43.
Oh, that's young. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing that I was going to say is that kind of reminds me of like every couple of decades having like a large protest movement. And back in 2020 it was, I think, mostly Black Lives Matter, but also like Me Too. In terms of like public activism, you have Black Lives Matter, but also a lot of people speaking up and telling their own stories and kind of breaking through some of that cycle of shame barrier, is such a profound and courageous act that I think has helped to drive that visibility and accountability that would not exist without that. And so, again, just fighting back on those cycles of suppression and saying, enough is enough. I'm going to tell my story. And then that makes someone else tell their story, and so on and so forth. And people speak to one another, and they have opportunities to, to heal and to unburden themselves from the responsibility and guilt of like holding this secret. And I think just I don't know if I'm just making this up in my mind or that I'm hopeful that something more positive is coming about, but it feels like there's been more actual accountability for these types of behaviors than there were before. And I have to think that that has something to do with it. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just coloring that in my own mind and trying to see that through like an idealized light, but I think it is. I feel like it is better. Um, and that gives hope. So heroism drives hope.
Yeah, and Craig, I think you're absolutely correct because do y'all know who Cat Williams is?
I didn't quite catch what was said.
Y'all know who Cat Williams is?
Cat Williams.
Oh, Cat Williams. Yes. Yep.
Okay. He's an African American comedian. He's about gay guy. I'm not tall at all, so he's about here. But he started off the year correctly as well, speaking basically of not so much. He didn't mention the Me Too movement, but basically saying how people are getting abused in the entertainment industry and getting raped and getting molested. And he basically, I want to say that he started off the year saying that, and I consider him like a prophet because he actually started talking about that and saying that it's okay, that it's that a lot of people were going to fall in 2024. And sure enough, now P. Diddy is being accused of so much craziness, unbelievable. The famous lawyer, what's his name? I don't know. He was in a talk show. I forgot his name right now. He was saying that the youngest kid that was trafficked by that whole entire group was 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I'm like, oh no.
Oh my gosh. It's terrible.
Yeah, like
Some of those going all the way up in our government.
Yes.
and
I'm like,
that, when we talk about heroes, right, we have to talk about the barriers to them too, right? Like, and like the thing that like sweet he's been talking about P. Diddy for a hot minute, actually,
yes,
right?
he's
Like that was
been-
actually it's like
yeah,
he's been I remember like
talking about it for
when I
like
was a
20
kid,
years.
as an African American person, I used to watch Cat Williams too. And he's like this is like all this information about P. Diddy. It's not something that I haven't heard in the skit before, actually, right? And it's the wildest thing, right? And like the barriers that have existed that have that has kind of made it to where we often in this modern time we get like a handful of people that we look at as heroes, right? Like we get like it's really hard with all these controversies, right, to find someone who wasn't on Epstein Island, right, who didn't endorse a terrible candidate, insert the orange one, that didn't, that doesn't suddenly flip flop on something, very, very crucial. It's there is what I've seen, right, and I can only speak, as a counselor. What I've seen is I think we do this thing where all the people that are the most sensitive, that are the most likely to be hitting the streets and doing something about these things, right? All our revolutionaries are oftentimes diagnosed as insane. All of our prophets, right? All of our, or locked up for a crime that doesn't really matter, right? Like all of the people, right, that would be have the symptoms of many people within the Catholic Church, many of the saints within the Catholic Church, many of the people with experiences that echo that of the Bible, right? They're like, they're locked up. All the people who would do those things, the Greta Thunbergs, right? That would probably make so much change.
Yeah, that's right.
Joan of Arc.
Where they just can't do any of that now. And so, like, whenever we describe these people, we describe all these historical people, yeah, like a long term, right? And now it's like it's a slim pickings. I think the systems that we have are kind of doing us a disservice here, in my experience.
Yeah, what were you talking about, the challenges? I think, challenging the status quo is always hard. Leo was mentioning like the Me Too movement. Did y'all hear what happened today?
Which one? What happened today? What happened today?
Well, I guess I heard about it from Lisa, who moved to Taos that's Marco's caregiver that has been on here before. She came here from Nashville because the music industry was so toxic that she really couldn't stay anymore. And when all this stuff was happening, like for instance with P. Diddy, she's like, well, it's finally getting to the music industry, but it'll never hit Nashville. Well, Garth Brooks was just accused of violently raping his hairdresser.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, so that just hit the news today. So she's like, wow, it's starting to happen. It is gonna, some of this toxicity is gonna come out. And so, I mean, that's a huge challenge. I think the Me Too movement is a really great example of how hard it can be. I mean, rape victims were always just beaten down and accused of lying and just made to feel worse than sometimes than the crime itself.
Yeah,
And
crazy.
Yeah.
I just read a really good book that talked about that. Anyway, the so I mean, just coming up to be that brave to come out publicly and accuse somebody who's really famous is really brave. But I think there's bravery required for all of these things we've been talking about. All of these movements that were started by somebody and just being part of these movements too. I think back to like the first Pride parade I ever went to. I mean, those were those were not primarily celebrations back then. Those were protests. Those were it was scary to be out. Scary about, and I knew lots of people who even I would be like, but like, you're a lawyer, how can you be afraid of being out? And they're like, no, I can't be out. People that, I mean, the fear and the struggle was real, and that fight is not done for sure. So I guess I just want to bring us back to remembering all the revolutionary things that just everyday folks are doing around us, and that all of you are doing just every day, and just by being our authentic selves and showing up to things like our church and like this group. And yeah, this is that there's lots of work to be done. There's lots of causes.
Oh yeah, I got the big go. Okay. Oh man, oh big it's okay.
And that's one of the differences between us and the superheroes is that we don't have those superpowers to fall back on. But
Yeah,
but all the heroes that we've talked about, that they're just ordinary people that come up and in the Bible, there's I mean, certainly Jesus is the greatest example, and like Craig talked about this, the example of what a revolutionary is, or what revolution is, how it challenges the status quo. I think Jesus is the greatest example. But throughout the Bible, there's so many other people who were just, like Moses going, God, I don't have the ability to, I can't talk to crowds. I can't speak to Pharaoh. Don't make me.
I'm too old. I'm not fit enough. I'm not this or I'm not that enough. And God's like, yes, you anyway. Go.
Yeah.
I think with the the Me Too stuff and with all of these things, just ultimately doing what is right, even in a small, I don't want to say small way, because what is small universally can be epic to one individual. But doing what you can to speak truth, to uphold what you know is right, help to encourage others along that path. And that's really where the true heroism is. It's not in the one, it's in the all. And the all starts with the one. Um, so if we can live up to those values, then we can all, nobody is perfect. So when you look at someone, even Greta, who knows, in 20 years we'll find out she did something terrible. Hopefully not, but God forbid. But um, eh, we might have, I think, held people up to pedestals in the past, and now we find out they are human beings with flaws, sometimes small and sometimes very great and terrible ones. But I think that is why, for me, it is important to be your own hero, uh, and to stand up for what you know to be true, for what you know to be right. I'm not gonna do the whole Superman thing and say the American way, because I don't know that the American way right now is the best way. But the Christ way, the God way, the good way, the love way, the Yahweh, and that will hopefully be the thing that can help lead you to a better place of bravery and help others to follow along the way.
Has anyone seen the Broadway show Big Fish?
No, I've seen the movie, but I haven't seen the Broadway show.
I've seen the movie, yeah.
I don't know if they sing the song, Be the Hero of Your Story If You Can. Be the hero of your story if you can. And so the song is really about, become the hero that you want someone else to be. Like, how did they say that? Was it Gandhi or was it MLK? I forget who said, you have to be, you need to be the person that you want to become, be the hero of your own story and act and behave in such a way and act and behave likewise. And I thought that was a catchy little number from our Broadway series at church this past July.
Oh,
And so
nice.
Big Fish wound up being one of my favorite plays. I've never seen it. I've never seen the movie, but I played the songs over and over and over again on Apple Music so I could learn the drum parts. And I'm like, be the hero of your story if you can.
I'll have to tell Adrian. I'm sure he'd love to listen to it.
Yeah, Adrian. Yeah, he probably knows the soundtrack to Big Fish. He's probably got it memorized.
On our way home, usually me and my husband talk on the phone about our day, right? And it's funny that we were talking today about, just like Craig said, about us being our own heroes. And I was talking to my husband about how it is important to always speak the truth, no matter if anybody doesn't want to hear the truth. It's very important, because then the little lies dig a deeper hole and deeper hole, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves in a situation that we didn't want to be in the first place. And it's so funny that we were talking about that, because I'm like, yeah, we have to hold each other accountable, and we have to speak the truth, even if it's hurtful.
Yes.
And
Yes.
very few people have the wherewithal to do that aren't locked up and institutionalized.
Or murdered, or they hung Jesus on the cross. Let's don't forget, and they killed. What was it? Who was the other person we're talking about?
You take any of those on a modern scale, and they would have probably locked them up too in the madhouse as well. Like it's we have a system.
Joan of Arc is one I thought of when you were talking about
Yeah.
the saints and everything.
They killed Harvey Milk. Revolutionaries tend to die, y'all. I'm sitting here trying to wrap my brain around the fact that, okay, Jesus was crucified and he was only, what, 33, 34 years old that we know of, right? So, I mean, imagine if Jesus had lived, to be 60, 70 or whatever, how wise, or, what else could have transpired. And it was just an interesting thing that just flashed through my head. Like, my God, Jesus was only 33, 34 years old. Like, wow.
Yeah, and a pretty short amount of time that he spent in his active public ministry, just a few years. Yeah. But I think some of the components, Craig, that you brought up, Jesus, I think that was that was the hardest, and that was why he was crucified. He challenged the status quo. And I think to the way that modern religion has kind of whitewashed that and said, well, Jesus died for our sins, that
Yeah.
it kind of misses so much to act like Jesus Jesus chose to die like that. I mean, that it just doesn't ring true. I mean, it doesn't. Jesus was crucified because he challenged the status quo. He challenged so much of the modern ideas of, I mean, he also upset the religious authorities.
Yep.
And yeah,
As they say today, he spoke truth to power.
he did.
Right.
And power recognized the truth when they heard it, and they're like, "Ooh, we got to get rid of this man because he's going to make my life uncomfortable and nasty."
Yeah.
And while he opposed the powers that be, and particularly like the occupation and the oppression and things like that, he didn't come the way that they wanted him to. As these superheroes, one of the things that drives me crazy about these superhero movies and things, and almost all movies that I tend to watch with good guys and bad guys or anything, it's always just the power that wins. It's not like the
love
is. Yeah. Well, I mean, love is a powerful force. Love, maybe Harry Potter, but then I can't watch Harry Potter anymore since
it's usually
Redacted.
But anyway, but I mean, that's like the Black Panther movie. I just remember thinking, well, they only won because they had more power. They figured out a way to get more power. But I want people to win that just because they're good, not just that the good has more might or more, just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you. Yeah,
And
it's like, here's
yeah.
my blue energy burst that solves the problem, and not actually any of this that solves the problem, or
Oh,
like any of this that solves
Double,
the problem.
double burst.
There you go.
I mean, it is kind of a giant metaphor, though, right? Because it's like, whenever we're talking about institutional change, right? Whenever we're talking about revolution, right? The discussion of power is on the table, right? Like, and what is done with that power? Like revolutionaries, they don't, like it's not like, yeah, like they may function via a decentralized sort of narrative or whatever, right? But taking, the ability to remove property from the table, the ability to potentially in, like all these things that have ever changed that we take for granted today, they were won in battle. They were won with violence. They were won with people in positions of authority living in fear for what would happen if they did the wrong thing. And power does that, right? And so it's like, whenever the discussion of power is intrinsically a part of the discussion of revolutionary, right? Like, yeah, there were nice people on the sides of the revolutions. Like there was an MLK, right? But what's
Nonviolent, and I think that MLK and Gandhi accomplished huge things by nonviolence. So yes, that doesn't mean that there wasn't power involved, but they did things. They did incredible things with nonviolence.
Yeah,
I think they started.
And there was a Malcolm X stuff, right? And there were people on the streets experiencing police brutality, right? And there were people, right, fighting the fight. Like the Stonewall riots was a riot. It wasn't just, people sitting down lighting themselves on fire. That happened a little. It was a riot. It was drag queens and gangsters fighting the police.
But some of it was just, like one of the stories I remember the most about Stonewall is that the police shoving somebody in the police car and then going back inside to get more people and them just I'm sorry. That was not a fun story. But somebody just going in one side of the police car and coming out the other, and and just back and forth, and then getting rearrested and shoved back in the police car and getting let out the other side. Just things like that. I mean, great things have been accomplished with nonviolence.
Absolutely.
With nonviolence, and I have to, I mean, I have to hold up MLK in a little bit higher way than Malcolm X. Just because.
Like I've told my husband, because we had this conversation before. I told him that I think that nonviolence started rolling the ball for the violent acts in order for change to happen, which they
Well, it's like whenever so it's like the idea of like the hippies create the police, right? It's like the cycle, right? Like you start off with the peaceful protests, right? But then the people who are against it, right? Like they experience victimized, right? You create the people who rally and on behalf of those who are experiencing this victimization, right? You have all these people, for instances, like George Floyd, right? Like he, you have all of the many names of those of my community,
Well,
right?
for example,
that are experiencing the adversity.
the thing that happened with Martin Luther King, and it was peaceful, but then after Martin Luther King was killed, then people started to more than likely say, you know what, peaceful's not working. It's time to act with violence, and maybe they'll listen. But I'm not discounting or what Martin Luther King did. No, he
and there were a lot of marches, and there were a lot of things. I mean, that ball was rolling quite a bit. And yes, there were a lot of people victimized, but they did not fight back with violence. They fought back with laws and with more marches and things like that. And great change occurred without violence. Gandhi, there's a lot of people that died in the name of nonviolence to overthrow the colonization of India. They're just people willing to put their life on the line, and just like hordes of people just pushing forward, knowing that they would be shot at, and very likely that a lot of people on the front lines would be killed, but they kept coming. They kept coming, just wave after wave, until change happened. And I have to think that more change happened with nonviolence than it did with violence in many cases. And I think Jesus is a good example of that.
And
if you want to see a 10,000 or 12,000 year history of violence, let's just look at the Middle East and how it keeps going back from tit for tat. Oh, now Israel's got to hit back Iran because they, and it goes on. It keeps going on, and there's no end in sight. And we get tired of seeing the bodies and the blood and stuff on the TV news, but it doesn't change.
Who was it that said there are many things I would die for, but I can't think of one that I would kill for?
Oh, I've never heard that before, but I like that.
That's pretty powerful. Maybe that's a good place to end it. We're at the end of our time, and we started a little late, but I don't want to keep y'all too late. But there have been some really good points, and I really love this discussion, and I love this group so much.
Oh, ma'am.
Next week we're planning on talking about. Let me just finish this sentence first about LGBT issues in our modern day politics. So I'm going to try to attend a conference put on by some people from my seminary, including the first MCC professor that
cool.
that was hired at my seminary. And so I'm just anxious. I wanted to get that behind me before so I would have just a little bit more background before our discussion next week. But that's the theme, and I'm sure many of you are very plugged in to what's going on in this country and in the world. So but with our election coming up, I think it's good for us to come together and make ourselves aware of some of those issues.
Man, I got big.
Oh, Marco wants to let y'all know he will not be on next week. He'll be at camp.
Awesome. Have fun, Marco.
Fun.
We'll miss you.
So I guess I'll probably be coming at you from Lubbock. So
Oh, you'll be in Texas. Well, that's kind of funny because while you're coming to Texas, Adrian will be going to New Mexico for a work conference. So
Oh, wow.
you'll
What
be
part of New
not quite,
Mexico?
but kind of trading places.
What part of New Mexico?
Santa Fe, Santa Fe.
Okay.
So Adrian can join from the hotel room next Thursday because he can't be at rehearsal.
Yeah, exactly.
He might be flying back at that time, I think.
Oh.
Actually, is it Wednesday or Thursday? I don't remember. I'll have to ask him again.
Awesome. Okay. Well, maybe you can email me or text me about his itinerary. Maybe because Santa Fe is not that far away. So if we don't trade places at the same days, maybe we can cross paths or something, or at least wave down the mountain.
There you go.
All right. Gregor, will you finish us out in prayer?
Certainly. Holy Spirit, we're just grateful for this hearty and small group on God Talk this evening. And what a subject, heroes. So I think we just are coming to you right now and asking you to help us to be heroes. Even as we discussed tonight, even in a small act of heroism can be epic to another human being, and we just never know. So help us to act with kindness and courage and respect and love and the hundreds of dozens of other qualities that we would attribute to heroes. Help us be our own hero first and foremost, because you can't give away that which you don't have. So, and as we go through the rest of this week, we ask for your protection, for your light and your love, and bring us back together next week. And we just pray for a peaceful, an internally peaceful week for all of us on the inside. Help us breathe into that light and love. And we ask all of these things in the holy name of Christ. Amen.
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 Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye, Marco.
Bye, Marco. God bless everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Jacob.
Bye.